What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Courage to Grow show with Jeff and Joe. Today, Jeff and Joe are joined by a very special guest from our very own dojo. We've got Mary Jean Vincent, who is a career coach and has been with us for a bit of time. We've learned a lot about her story along the way. She has been absolutely crushing it, and we are excited to hear more about her. Before we introduce her, though, real quick, I got to introduce my co-host, Joe. Joe, you're at the cabin right now. What's going on, bro? What are you up to?
Totally loving this. I'm excited about being here at the cabin. I got to say, I'm so excited having someone who is a consistent learner on our show.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Jean has not only been a career coach for a little bit of time, and we're going to hear more about her story. What I also love is that I've learned about Mary Jean is she's consistently learning new things like language. She's learning how to speak French. She travels to France. So I'm so stoked because maybe we'll drop a little bit of en français while we speak to MJ today. However,
sure,
MJ,
I'll sit here.
Yeah, no sweat. MJ, welcome to Courage to Grow. We're so honored to have you with us today.
Well, thank you. I am delighted to be here today.
Awesome. So yeah, every show we like to start out with our guests presenting basically in 15 seconds or less. What is it that you do specifically? What is it you sell?
So, you know how a lot of people struggle to find the right job or career?
Mm-hmm.
What I do is I help them identify their expertise, highlight their experience, and land their dream jobs.
I love that you started that with a question, by the way. That's a first for the show.
Yes.
But it's so engaging to ask questions. And it's funny that you did that because you just started working with me on our special ops program, the objection prevention system, where we learn about asking more questions. So credit to you for that. That's awesome. So yeah, let's dive in with this a little bit. Obviously, it's called the Courage to Grow. What we want to do is we want to share stories about your journey. And I know that you've been on a journey. So maybe start us way back at the beginning here of this career path, right? What got you into career coaching, helping people find those dream jobs?
Well, after I earned my master's degree, I went to work in training and development and hiring people. And what I discovered was that a lot of people made mistakes during the interview process, and I couldn't help them. I couldn't hire them. However, occasionally I would pull a candidate that looked promising aside and I would say, hey, I got some suggestions for you. And so I would give them some suggestions for future. And sometimes people were open to that and sometimes people weren't. And so then when my company moved out of town, I went to work for an outplacement company. And a lot of people don't know what an outplacement company is, but that's the company that comes in when like Apple or Cisco or Salesforce downsize employees, then they hire an outplacement company to help those employees transition to a new job. And so I went to work for an outplacement company and I managed career centers in Silicon Valley. And from there, I decided that I would start my own practice. And that's what I did many years ago.
That's awesome. So I want to jump in on one thing because you mentioned sometimes people are open to it, sometimes they're not. I want to hear about in what world are you like, okay, somebody's giving me advice about how to land this job that I didn't land. I obviously failed. And they're just like, nah, I know what I'm doing. No, thank you. Can you give me like a scenario there? Like what happened with one of those examples?
Well, I would say most of the time people were open to that.
Right.
So, generally, I think if I took time to take people aside, they were open. Once in a while, you had somebody who sort of pushed back a little bit. I was like, okay, well, you snooze, you lose.
That's so weird. But this like proves a point that we talk about in the dojo all the time. 20% of people will not accept your services, will not like buy from you, even if it was free. Like they won't even, you could be like, here, I want you to have this gift. And they'll be like, haha, no, I'm good. And like 20% of people will take it from you no matter what the price is. They will pay anything to work with you. And it's like these 60% in the middle. It's a distribution curve. 60% in the middle are the ones that you actually have to do some convincing, some work with in order to get them to the point of making a buying decision. So that's just beautifully illustrates that. A few people being like, nah, I don't want this absolutely free help that I surely need because I didn't succeed at this interview. That's funny.
I'm kind of curious,
ahead,
MJ. You had jumped, and I wanted to jump in, Jeff. it sounds to me like you were doing like a human resources position.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So when to go from HR and starting your own business, what were you doing to be able to attract clients? I mean, everybody wants to be able to close sales. You still need to be able to attract leads. So I'm just curious, when you first started, what was it that you were doing to be able to get the word out there on Mary Jean Vincent?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I wasn't doing a very good job of it. When I moved to having my own practice, I did that part-time at first and continued to work for an outplacement company, which was helpful. The outplacement company was up in Silicon Valley and I was in Monterey. And I think initially being very naive with starting my business, I thought people were just going to beat a path to my door. So it was a big surprise to discover that that was not the case and that I was going to have to do something else in order to get people to my door. And I didn't do a very good job of that for a long time. One thing that helped me was I started writing a column for the paper, and that's in print and online. And I've done that for, I want to say, 17 years.
Still going today?
Yeah.
Good for you.
And so that has helped to bring people to the door because people read the column. Although I have to say it's a long sales cycle because people will tell them about me. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I read her column," and still it's a while before people say, "Oh yeah, I've been reading your column for years. Finally." I was like, "Well, finally, I'm glad something hit home for you."
You know what? Jeff and I have both said this before. I mean, we feel the same way about this sales cycle. And Jeff, if you want to harp in on this, feel free. It's the Jeff uses the word incubation, and we talk about we're damned if we don't do social media, because there's parts of social media that Jeff and I are like pulling our hair out. You can see that I'm actually got less than him. And the fact of the matter is, it's that we do it because we want to provide value and we want to give. And the idea of these algorithms, it's like, you know what? I'm not going there anymore. I'm just going to give. And the cycle of incubation in terms of giving people the opportunity to find out who we are, what we do. Jeff, did you want to add anything to that as far as this idea, the sales cycle? And then MJ, what I'd like to know is, what is the sales cycle for you? So Jeff, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the sales cycle differs for every single individual. Like we work with, for example, Doug in our program. He sells very high ticket services in the up to $100,000 type area. So his sales cycle could be anywhere from 6 to 12 months sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're selling something that's a couple $100, it should be a one call close, like a singular, call or exposure sales cycle. And maybe for us, for example, it's like a week. It depends. You kind of make that acquaintance. You might do a call. You might do a text back and forth. You might have them come in and like experience the dojo and then go from there. So I think it differs for everybody. But I truly believe that in every sales cycle, there should be a giving moment or two where you're providing some value. You're saying like, listen, not only do I know what I'm talking about and am very good at what I do, but I also want to prove that to you, not just by saying like, hey, I'm great, like a lot of people unfortunately do and fail with. We say, here, look, just do this. You'll experience some success with what I'm talking about. And then, they get that buy-in with you. The trust is
results in advance.
Exactly. Yeah. The trust is there now and they can move forward. So yeah, MJ, what's your sales cycle look like?
Yeah. How long?
So I'll give you an example with a recent client. So his mother contacted me probably 2 years ago when he had been out of college for a couple of years, thinking maybe I could help her son. No, I responded, went back and forth a little bit. Well, apparently he wasn't ready yet. And so I didn't hear from her. All of a sudden, probably a month ago, she reached out to me, said, I think my son could use some help. He's not really doing well in interviews, and, I think there's something there. So I talked to him, and he was ready. And so we got started right away within a couple of days. So
good for you.
Very interesting how that works. You'll have to be ready for it.
I'm assuming that a lot of the people that you're working with, it's either, they're in a job or they're in a career path, and they may be working in a place where they're not feeling, appreciated for how good they are, or they may be in a position where they're looking for more money. Give me some examples of some of the things that you're doing where some of your clients, these are the challenges that they have, because ultimately you're giving people this opportunity of a dream job. Where are the people when they come to you? What are some of the challenges that they have?
Well, okay, I'll give you another example of a client I'm working with. She's probably mid-30s. She's worked for a company that was a startup that has gotten considerably bigger. And in the process, she used to have a very big role. Well, they've hired a lot of people on top of her. And so she was feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. I don't know where I'm at. I'm not sure if I'm appreciated. I know there'll be some cuts. I don't want to be one of the ones cut. And I want to move forward with the company. And so I have been coaching her with some very specific career building tactics. How can she be more visible? How can she really hone in on the work that she's really good at and get to do that kind of work? And so just in a matter of, we've been working together maybe for 2 months, and her boss has already said, wow, I really like what you're doing. I like that you're, honing in on your ruthless priorities, because that's what we talk about. What are your 3 ruthless priorities? Get buy-in from your boss on that. She's done that. So already she can begin to see her visibility is increasing. Her boss is appreciating her more. So she's feeling
Love
more
it.
confident.
You say ruthless priorities.
Yes.
Where did you come up with that term? I love it.
Oh, I read a book by Patty Azzarello. It's called Rise, and she uses that term in the book. And I thought that's exactly what it is. It's ruthless priorities. What are they?
Yeah.
And I mean, I just think that's really what my clients need to hone in on. Or what are your 3 ruthless priorities? Do you know what they are? Do you have buy-in from your boss on that?
Love it.
All right. Cool. Well, let's do this, because this is how we like to spin towards the end of the episode. Is we have a segment we call sales fails, right? And I think you can guess what that means. But
Sales fails, man.
Sales
We all
fails.
have them.
No doubt your favorite.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all have them. We've all, made those mistakes during the sales process. We've been talking a little bit about your sales process, your cycle here. So if you wouldn't mind sharing, could you share an example of a sales call gone wrong? And because this is Courage to Grow, what did you learn from that? How have you applied since then?
Oh boy, don't you love that? A sales call that's gone wrong. And here I was going to tell you about why I came to you guys, but I can tell you a little bit. So let me see if I can think of a specific one, because there have been many sales. So the one that comes to mind is a man that I knew I could help with his resume and his job search, and he wasn't sure. He had to check with his wife, and his wife came on, and she just totally derailed the entire conversation. I lost track of that conversation, and she decided that she could do whatever it was that he needed, that he really didn't need my services. And at the end, I thought, I mean, so what could I have done differently? I could have handled that call much more. I could have streamlined that. I could have asked better questions and known maybe more of where I was going, which is what I'm getting from the work that I'm doing with you, Jeff. It's really getting a sense of where am I going with that sales call.
How did you feel about sales when you first started your business, MJ, and how are you feeling now?
Oh, yeah. I hated to have to think that I was going to be doing sales calls when I first started my business. And what I've realized is it really is me. I have something very valuable to offer, and it's up to me to make the offer to people and to help them make the decision that I can help them. And, ultimately, they have to make that decision. They have to decide that that's the case. But I really have something of value to offer. And if I don't offer it, then people are going to lose out. And I
For
can
sure.
help a lot of people.
You
So
can.
it's something that we call the magic word obligation, right? So if we have something truly valuable that we know will help people, it's our obligation to ensure that they make the most educated buying decision, right? And what Joe and I have determined is that takes confident communication. So for Joe and I, it's the vision for us at the dojo is that we will be the world's #1 producer of confident communicators. And that's just the case. Like, if you know this is what you have to do, like, you can help people, it's your obligation, in fact, to help them, then it comes down to, like, okay, how do I do that better? Right. And you learned in that scenario, you basically had the wife was doing what we call the show off. Right. And Joe, we SOS the show off. Right. What's the SOS for the show off? Somebody's like, I know exactly what my husband needs, and I'm going to provide that for him. I put Joe on the spot.
You got a couple of options here. So, hey, you know what? I can really appreciate that you feel that you're in that position, that you know your husband so well. I'm just curious, what is it specifically that he needs?
Put them back on the spot, right?
And ask them, right? SOS the situation. And you know what, Jeff, you're saying something that's so important. And MJ, we've been watching you go through this transformation. And when you first came to us, right, there was a level of fear. We all have it. And now to watch you grow and step into your greatness, and it takes practice. And what I love about you is you just keep coming back because we're doing it live. We're doing the workouts. When I say workouts, you're in to do the practice. And you're the one who actually helped us create Ops, because we had you, Cynthia Corsetti, Doug Knoll. We had a variety of other members saying, hey, you know what? I'm running into this challenge with discovery. Jeff is a master of the discovery process. And it was like, okay, if we could help people prevent as many objections as possible so that the sale is even easier, objections are going to happen. So you and I had this conversation, and the alignment of that was just so perfect. And so, yeah, it's been so much fun to watch you literally transform. Wouldn't you agree, Jeff?
Absolutely. And you're coming along so quickly with our Spec Ops program too, which is awesome. So I'm looking forward as well to hearing about your next buying conversation, because we've been talking about that. I know you got some coming up, you got some calls coming up. So we'll take a listen to those and like see how you transform over time, since we've been in the program for 5 weeks now. I think we're 5 going on 6 here. So yeah, it has been awesome and transformative. So we're very happy with your progress. We're proud of you, MJ. You're crushing it. You're crushing it.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate the practice, because it is that real-time practice that makes difference. And that's exactly when I work with my clients on interview questions, it's that real-time practice that makes a difference for them. And this is what makes the difference for me. So I appreciate that.
Well, and so out of curiosity, how do people that are the listener, anybody who's seeing this on YouTube and or hearing this podcast, if you're looking for a new career, a career change, and you need help, how do people get a hold of Mary Jean Vincent?
So they can certainly contact me at 831-657-9151. They can go to my website, which is careercoachmonterey.com. Or they can email me at mjv@careercoachmjv.com.
Awesome.
Any of those ways work for me.
Love it. Well, MJ, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. And we look forward to having you back probably in the future, because we like to do that with guests. So
keep growing.
We'll like give you a few months, do another little transformation with you, because I want to see where you go with Spec Ops and the dojo in the future as well. So appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on. And Jaws, take us out.